And welcome everyone to a postseason, off-season interview with the new national championship head coach, Todd Golden from the University of Florida. Todd, I want to look back and then look forward here. First, in a little over a month, since then, how would you describe what life has been like?
Busy. We've uh we've been rocking and rolling pretty good since the national championship game, and it's been an incredible experience, obviously. And the excitement here in Gainesville has been remarkable, and just being out and on the road a little bit, trying to recruit and put our team in the best position to be successful next year and moving forward, and having some fun with it along the way. As we talked about before we came on air, was just at the Winged Foot event in New York City and some other great events like that to celebrate our championship.
You're now in an exclusive club, and there's plenty of Hall of Fame head coaches who never even either got to a Final Four or won a national championship. And here in your relatively young head coaching career, you got one. What's that feel like to know that you're in this exclusive club?
It's surreal, to be honest. Obviously it's something that you dream about and you work for, and it's kind of that, that ultimate goal that you're trying to reach when you're working every day along with your staff and your players. And obviously we just had a great group this season, and a team that was super well connected, very mature, very unselfish, and our staff did a great job all year as well. Just continuing to get better. And the run we went on down the stretch was remarkable. Losing to Georgia kind of catapulted us. We won our last 12 games, and it's just something that obviously we'll never forget. But it was an incredible experience, and I'm just very proud to be a part of that elite group.
Every champion, it seems like, has to go through that one game or a few games to win the national championship where you're really on that line. And it felt like you had three, if I'm not mistaken, where they could have gone sideways for you. When you look
Mhm.
back at the run, what was that sort of common thread in each of the comebacks?
Yeah, we definitely had some tough situations. The two main ones that stick out to me, obviously UConn in the second round. They had our backs against the wall for a majority of that second half, and again, Walter Clayton and his teammates stepped up in the biggest moments to make huge plays. And similar situation with the Texas Tech game. They played great. They had they were putting it on us a little bit, down 10 with about 4.5 minutes to go. But in both those moments, I thought our leadership, our maturity and our experience really stepped up. Walter, obviously, the best player in the tournament and earned every accolade and award that he got across the way. But it was a collective effort in each game. Elijah Martin, Will Richard, Tommy Houck, Kondo, Ruben, all these guys stepped up in huge moments to make big winning plays. And I thought our maturity and our ability to never get too high and never get too low, depending on the circumstance, well, it gave us the confidence to work through those tough situations and find a way to win those games.
You know what I loved when I think back, and I was doing Sideline, as you know, for Westwood One, and we would talk at halftime of the two games at the Final Four. And you're always kind of locked in, but it felt like you also did a great job. And now I'm drawing a blank of who was to your right on one of the times, but you're listening to your assistants, taking it all in, and then disseminating and not being overwhelmed by the moment, which could have easily been understandable because you hadn't been in that moment. And yet you were able to sort of bring all this information and then deliver it. What were those experiences like in those half times at those two games to then spin it in the second half to win the title?
Yeah, that's where, our maturity and our consistency, I thought really uh, showed up. And we really tried to do the same thing in the Final Four in terms of our processes and approach as a staff as we did in the first, 2 weeks of the season. And so it was something that even though the lights were bright and it was the biggest moment, that you could ever be in regards to coaching, I thought our staff did a great job of keeping that consistent approach and not letting the moment get too big for us. And the comfort of being with guys for 3 years, I thought was really important. And obviously, we've lost some guys because they've moved on to getting head jobs on their own, which is what we want and what we hope for. When you have success, but that comfort and that connection between our staff and our players, I thought really showed up because we were in some adverse situations, down 8 at halftime against Auburn, got down 12 in the second half against Houston. And our ability to kind of stay together and fight through those moments together, I thought was a separator for us.
The other thing, I mean, look, it's not a true democracy, but it shouldn't be a dictatorship, if you will. And in terms of your learning from whether it's Bruce or Kyle or Randy, um, how much do those guys allow you to have a voice? Uh, that then I saw like you were doing the same thing for your assistants, where the ego, I mean, everyone has an ego, but you didn't let it be too big to not listen to, hey, maybe we should do X or Y, or maybe we should change how we're doing this on this coverage. I could see you listening and not pushing back and, okay, do I want to do this or what? Where did you learn that?
Definitely playing for Randy and Kyle at St. Mary's. I was a role player in college. I think I was a good role player, but I was a role player and understood from the moment I got on campus that I was going to only be as good as A, the people around me, and B, how could I make them better? That's how I stayed on the court at St. Mary's. Obviously, Patty Mills is a remarkable NBA player, still playing in the league. My job was to make his life easier and to make him better. And so as a coach, I really do a lot of the same things. Obviously, I'm the leader of this program, but I have some incredibly talented staff members here. And, it'd be really silly for me to feel like, I was just so much better in these different areas. Like, I have guys that are great offensive coaches. I have guys that are great defensive minds. I have guys that are great player development coaches. And really, I feel like my job is to put together this great staff and then let them take over their moments in the areas that I think they can really make us better. And for example, this last year, Kevin Hovde was our offensive coordinator. He spent a majority of his time making sure we were the best offense we could be. So it would have been silly for me in big moments to say, "Oh no, we need to do this way." When he felt confident about what we should be doing. And again, I think our staff works really well together because everybody feels like they got a part in it and they feel like they can impact the team or the game. And the collection of our staff is really good.
All right, before we move on to that staff, when you think back, we've talked about these comebacks. Was there a moment in any one of those games where you felt like, okay, this may really happen because, we were almost teetering where we were out?
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a couple moments where I thought we might be losing and going home in the Texas Tech game for sure. There, when I think they broke us down, got a dunk with 4.5 minutes to go to put them up 10. I was like, man, like our team's been so resilient all year, but at some point, like I'm not sure we're going to be able to find a way. And once we got through that game and got to the Final Four, you know the deal. It's kind of anybody's ball game when with those four teams that made it, to San Antonio. And in the Houston game, obviously back against the wall, Walter doesn't score in the first half. We go down 12. When Walter came out of the game and our ability to kind of chip away a little bit, get him some rest, bring him back when we're only down 5, we were pretty confident then. We're like, all right, because we were good at wearing teams down all year, our front court and our depth there. We were so physical and so athletic that I felt like if we could just continue to wear teams down, we'd be in good shape. And Walter had a couple and ones in that Houston game, and I think when we got that 3-point shot for him out of the timeout with the under 4 that tied the game. I really felt like our team had it at that point. We're like, all right, like if we just play a good solid game down the stretch, we're going to give ourselves a chance to cut down the nets here.
One last thing on that. He, we talk a lot about how Sharp didn't take the shot, but I don't think enough is said about what Clayton did to get in position to potentially block the shot. He certainly altered it. What did you think when you reflect back on that defensive play?
Yeah, just a remarkable job by our guys, just being locked in because Houston ran like 3 or 4 different actions that we had to cover up, and we did a good job. And I do go back to earlier in the game, Walter closed out on Sharp and blocked his shot, and it went out of bounds. I think it was early second half. And although Walter was a little late on that closeout on Sharp, his athleticism and his IQ took over, and he found a way to get there and fly by. And there's no doubt in my mind that that previous play from earlier in the half was kind of in the back of Sharp's mind, which kind of prevented him from letting it fly. But once he dropped that ball and it was kind of bouncing around, it felt like an eternity. It felt like 2 hours before the horn went off. But when I saw Kondo dive on it, we felt pretty good about it.
All right. So going forward, you said it's been crazy busy. What's been the coolest thing over the last month?
Just kind of just seeing all the first of all the success of our guys and just seeing them enjoy it. Our three seniors have positioned themselves well for the next level. They'll be going to the combine next week, and seeing Walter go from a guy that wasn't on draft boards at the beginning of the year to now he's going to be hopefully lottery between 10 and 20 is where they're thinking he might go right now. And just seeing the way our players and staff have been received back here in Gainesville. This is this is a town that expects championships, and in the mid 2000s with Urban and Coach Donovan and what they had going on. I think people are starting to feel like, all right, maybe we're getting back to that level because football, I think, is positioned to have a lot of success this next season as well. And it's just really neat and really has been great to be a part of, building relationships with guys like Coach K. He's been incredible just in his praise of our program. I spent a lot of time with Dickie V over the past couple of weeks and just, one of the guys that should be on the Mount Rushmore of college basketball and just seeing them appreciate and show love for what our program's done has been really, really special.
All right, so the staff. The good news is you win a title and guys get jobs, but that also is a challenge to sort of duplicate. And right off the bat, like you get a championship level coach and Klatsky from NYU. I mean, what were you thinking? Okay, I got to try to replicate this.
Yeah, well, it's, you lose Kevin Hovde, who's a great coach and has done an incredible job, operating our offense, but also on a daily basis, just helping run our program. We've been together for a long, long time, so that's going to be a tough loss, but he's deserved of a head coaching position. I think he'll do great at Columbia. John Anderjack moves on to Campbell, a great young stud coach who I think is going to do a great job there. But the great thing is, we were able to retain Carlin Hartman, who, could be a head coach at any given time. Corey McCray, Jonathan Sapphire, who, I work hand in hand with on a lot of the player personnel aspects of our program. And we got a lot of great talent here. We bring in Dave, and again, we have a lot of great continuity, and we want our younger guys to continue to get more and more responsibility. Dave's going to do a great job for us as well. We'll probably add one more coach at some point over the next month or two before we get into the summer. But it's going to be a challenge. It's my first time kind of losing some guys, but again, it's part of the process when you have success. And I want our coaches to have opportunities like this because that's how you get other good young guys to come and want to be a part of your staff.
So you hit a home run in the portal the last couple of years, produce a champion. So now, how do you take that blueprint with this portal season in terms of what you have already added to stay at this level?
Well, the key to our success last year was retention. We got Will Richard and Walter Clayton back. We had two young ones and Alex Condon, Tommy Houck that were studs, and then Denzel from his sophomore to junior year. And then we've put pieces around them and Elijah and Ruben, Sam Alexis, Urban Klavjar. Those guys we were able to plug those holes, so to speak. And this year, I don't think it's that much different. We've done a great job retaining our front court. Knock on wood, we should get all those guys back. We'll see how Alex's pro prospects go over the next couple of weeks. But the backcourt's going to be new, and getting Xavier was huge. We have some really good young talented guys.
From Princeton.
Yeah, Xavier Lee from Princeton is a huge addition. Him and Tommy Houck were teammates back in prep school, and so he has a really good understanding of how we operate and what we do. We have some really good young ones in the program. I think of Isaiah Brown as a guy that should be a really impactful riser from freshman to sophomore year. AJ Brown, his brother, is a really good shooter scorer from Ohio that's coming in. And our goal is to add one more guy. And I think if we can do that over the next couple of weeks, and we're not trying to rush, we want to be picky. But if we can add another impact guard, I think this team has a chance to be really good next year.
Scheduling. Some games are out of your control, like the ACC SEC Challenge. You did schedule UConn, Jimmy V. What else you got to keep this program, as a program that's going to continue to have a great schedule?
Yeah, well, you said UConn in the Jimmy V. That's a scary game already, going to play them in Madison Square. And I've been able to spend a lot of time with Danny Hurley last week at the Dickie V Gala, and I know they're going to be ready for us. Let's just put it that way. We will open up with Arizona in Las Vegas on opening night, which I think is a great game. I have a ton of respect for Tommy Lloyd. They used to kick our butt when he was at Gonzaga, and we were at San Francisco and saving. That's going to be in Las Vegas.
Okay.
That's going to be in Las Vegas on opening night. So that's going to be a fun one. Our MTE out in San Diego has TCU, Wisconsin, and Providence. So we hope to get some good games out there. And, I think we'll get a good game in the ACC SEC Challenge this year as well. So We're gonna have our hands full. This will be our toughest non-conference schedule that we've had since we've been in Gainesville.
And how much do you expect the SEC, maybe not to get 14, but certainly replicate in terms of being either the number one or number two conference next season?
Man, I think this league has some staying power, for sure. Last year was absurd, from top to bottom, just how good these teams were. And, I think the league has done a really good job of positioning ourselves. They've recruited well again. A lot of teams bring back some really talented players. So it's going to be another battle. It's going to be an absolute war. And, I think anybody that's able to finish in the top four of the league next year, will have a chance to make a deep, deep run into March and April.
And lastly, Todd, what a year. I mean, Billy's going into the Hall of Fame, Billy Donovan, in the fall. You guys win the national championship. It's the first title since he did it back to back. This is home, 3 years in, you win a championship. What's your sort of macro 30,000 feet feeling about just where you are with this program and in your career?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel super fortunate, obviously, to get this opportunity here at Florida 3 years ago. I'm sure a lot of people thought that I was going to be above my skis a little bit getting this opportunity, and you know, fortunately, Scott Strickland, our AD, has supported us and allowed us to hire a great staff, and the fans and the people that have supported us NIL wise have put us in a position to compete and. Knock on wood, 3 years, that probably a little quicker than we thought to be able to win a national championship, but we're definitely not going to be upset about it. And we feel, good pressure in having to keep it up. I think we've shown we can do it. And now that expectation, it's not going to get lower. I can promise you that. But we're going to enjoy it, man. We're going to keep rolling. And my hope is that we can be doing it here in Gainesville for a long, long time.
So you got the drive for a two because it's not easy. It's hard to get one. It's even harder to get two. You have that drive?
Nope. Yeah, we got the drive, man. I'm only 39, man. I got a long time left to have to do this, and we'll see if we can continue to shock people down here.
I appreciate it, Todd. Congratulations again. Just remarkable run. You're a national championship coach for the rest of your life. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate you too, brother. Thank you.